God Morgan, and happy Woten's Day to you. Firstly, as always, let me start by saying, talk. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for following, subscribing, liking, reposting, sharing, all of the things that we can do to further the distribution of this message and these words. Let me also say, NorseWhispers.com, where there are tons of links to all of our shows, all of our videos, our audio recordings, drum circles, you name it, all there. You can also add supporter, so NorseWhispers.com/supporters. Drop a few coins in the tip jar, and we can use those to further the message even further. Or if you choose to get something in return, you can always visit the link on our website for Mountain Rose herbs, the greatest herbs, in my opinion, on the planet, wonderfully taken care of, wonderfully prepared for all your culinary, your natural remedies, all of those needs, including essential oils. So they're all there. Wonderful products, 100% organic, great products. If you use the link on our website, they take a small amount of the proceeds and offer it to us that we can, again, continue to distribute this message. Today we're talking about the Woten. Now, Woten, of course, for those of you who are maybe new to the Germanic Norse, Woten was the name Woten used as he migrated through Germania. So Woten is a Germanic interpretation of Woten. And this man, Woten, God, sought wisdom at every opportunity he had. He would seek out wisdom. The legends say that he donated an eye to the Norner sisters at the Well of Erd, which sits, by the way, at one of the roots of Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil, of course, being the tree of life and the center of the 9 realms. In Woten's case, he donated an eye, a physical eye, that he may drink from the well, of which the well, of course, contains all the experiences of all the 9 realms. So any life form that has lived in any of the 9 realms, of course, is absorbed by Yggdrasil and deposited into the Well of Erd. So the Well of Erd was very, very packed with not wisdom. No. The Well of Erd was packed with experiences. It had visual representation of all of life, interpretation of their experiences. And this is what Woten would drink from. And when he drank it, of course, his brain had to process all of these new now experiences that he would receive, so that he could build that wisdom up even further, which shows us and tells us that it is all of life's experiences that we are living through that provides us with the foundation at which to build this wisdom that we need to have. Now, what is wisdom? Wisdom is the interrelationships that exist between pieces of knowledge or stacks of knowledge which are built by intellect. Now, we've discussed this before, but wisdom then forms a level of trust based on these relationships between knowledge mounds and of course our emotional states at any given time. Now, as we are taking in experiences and we are seeing the world or hearing it or tasting it or smelling it or even touching it, and our brain is accepting these sensory input, those energy signals that are coming from our five senses are interpreted by our emotional filter, okay? Our emotional filter, our emotional state, moment by moment. Remember that. So if you receive some energy, some intellect, and you're feeling rather blue, rather somber maybe, and that intellect comes in and it is interpreted by that, the next moment you could receive the same information, but because your emotional state is different, the information is interpreted by your brain differently. All right, does that make sense? So your emotional state, your emotional filters are super, 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 super critical. And it's critical that we understand how that works. Now, for those of you who have done college or maybe higher education, you probably know that learning and remembering the facts and the data that you receive during the training comes easier when your mind is content, it's happy, it's filled, maybe not filled with joy, but it's joyful, all right? Your brain brings in the data, and because these filters now are seeking the good and the joyful and the happy, that is how the information is processed. Versus, if you're there receiving this training, miserable day, miserable start to the day, you don't want to be there. The information, most often than not, presented during the course will be much harder to absorb, okay? And that's because of these emotional filters. So very, very critical that we understand that, because as we have experiences in this life, these emotional filters manipulate all the physical sensory input into the brain that is then stored that way. So you remember when you go back through your memories and you're trying to retrace your steps, so to speak, and you're trying to draw up these memories. You remember the memories the way you got them in the first place, all right? So if you were depressed when you received this memory, you were saddened, somber, blue, when you receive this, that's how you remember it, okay? And it's not until we're able to kind of think about it and change our perspective on that piece of information do we begin to experience joy. And this is really a benefit for us that we can do, is that we can look at this piece of information, and we'll say we received it 3 years ago, and we look at this piece of information, and when we received it, it was sad. It was, man, I wish that hadn't happened, or something to that effect. And when you turn it just a little bit, we can see now a different perspective of it. And it may change the emotional signature attached to that information from sad to maybe neutral or glad. Okay? As an example, in my life, much earlier in my life, I donated, lack of a better way to say it, I dedicated a lot of time in my existence to drugs and alcohol. And that led me down a very horrible path. It lasted for about 10 years of my life. And a horrible experience. But if I look back on it now, I could be like, oh man, that really sucked. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had done this other thing, blah, 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 right? Or I change my perspective a little bit and I say how much I've learned from that. Obviously, spending all one's money and energy and effort on getting drugs, on using drugs, and trying to escape something you're never going to escape anyway, is just silly. All right? I can look back on that now, and because I changed the perspective from that perspective of woe is me, so to speak, to look what I've learned. Look what I now know firsthand, right? So firsthand, I know not to go down that track. And if I did make that turn towards that track, I now understand how to kind of change that. Walk away from the drugs that led me down a horrible path. So we see by changing our perspective of that memory, we can turn it into a learning opportunity. More importantly, a growing opportunity, right? Because now we're creating wisdom. Because now, if someone were to come to me tomorrow and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, what do you suggest? Now I have answers. Now I can say, here's something I've thought about for many years now after the fact. And so step by step on how to do that. Okay? So that's really the amount of perspective. And so what we're looking at there is a small amount of intrinsic reflection, or meditation is what most people call it. But this intrinsic reflection allows us to look back on those memories and say, okay, yes, that was not advantageous, unless I change my perspective and realize the educational opportunity it was, right? And as I put that together, I'm then able to maybe have a better understanding, but more importantly, now instead of collecting knowledge, I'm now beginning to build wisdom, because it's interrelating and it's got that emotional connection moving around my brain. So this is really what Woten did by drinking from the well, is that he had gained other people's experiences in the first hand, so that he could then say, all right, wait, what's my educational opportunity from that? What can I learn from that? How do I grow? How do I make me a better version of me? Right? Or how can I provide advice to other people about this situation that can help them to grow and to become better versions of themselves? Now, the thing that we have to remember is that we can't do it for other people. They have to do it themselves. We have to do it ourselves. I am simply here to kind of say, hey, have you thought about doing this? The work, the action, the necessity of intrinsic reflection, self-intrinsic reflection, then is on the individual. So we have to do the work. We have to do that intrinsic reflection. look through those memories and determine what, if anything, both good and bad memories, to determine what we're learning from it. One of the things that I'm always interested in is people's definitions of good and bad. And they say, oh, that's a sin, that's bad. Well, hold off there. We don't know that, because our definition of good and bad is geographical. It's very community, culturally based, right? That's where our idea of good and bad, because what may be good in one part of the world may be bad in another, or vice versa, all right? So our idea of good and bad is very localized and it's very community oriented. It typically stems from authority figures within our lives. It's their influence on us of what's good and bad. Because remember, what mom and dad thought were good and bad versus what grandma and granddad thought, right? Notice they're different. It's not your imagination. It's true. Because they have different experiences. They're coming from a different DNA place. So very different in where they've arrived and what their definition of good versus bad is versus what mom and dad's, or maybe great mom, grandma and granddad have even a different view, right? So be gentle with yourself. Those perceived errors in judgment that we've made in our lives can either be a boat anchor hanging around our neck, or they can be educational opportunities at which we learn from. It happened. Okay, you can't change the past. The past is finite. It's what you bring out of the past that is what makes your future. Okay, so if you look at your past and you go, yeah, I've made some horrible mistakes, I've made some horrible choices, I feel terrible about that, and maybe I'm just not worthy. You are worthy. All right, let me stop you right there and say you are worthy. You are absolutely worthy. Okay? What you need to do is look at those memories that you have that are maybe not, in your opinion, so good of yourself, and determine what we've learned from that. Don't kick yourself. What's done is done. All right? You can't change it. You can't change the past. What you can do is change the trajectory of the future. So that's what we should focus on. All right. So I hope you embrace today, Woten's Day, as we process the wisdom that we achieve in our lives by just experiencing the life in front of us. Right? We try to do the right thing, to promote harmony, to promote peace, to promote love, joy, happiness. Not by tearing down other people, not by hurting other people, but by bringing us all up together as one. The human race, right? There is no superiority, right? Man is not superior to woman. A color of skin matters not. It really doesn't mean anything, right? So remember, our goal should be harmony and peace, joy, togetherness. I mean, just that unity is what we should be seeking. Use our experiences of the past to learn, to alter our trajectory for the future. All right? So I hope you embrace, with some intrinsic reflection for you, you embrace the wisdom that Woten taught by drinking from the well of Ur, because it truly is a great method at which to grow and learn and love. All right. Please continue. I can't begin to express my appreciation for all of those of you who have liked, followed, subscribed, super secret handshakes with all of these platforms, to really get our message out there and get help to those who are seeking it. Right? So continue to do so, and thank you so much for that. In the meantime, feel free to stop by NorseWhispers.com. There you can also find questions answered, which is a great opportunity for you to get a free shirt. For those questions that are asked, they're on the website. For those that we choose to make a show out of, we will send you a free t-shirt that you can wear, or cover a chair, clothe the dog if it gets a little cold, do whatever, but it's a free shirt that you can have just for asking questions and seeking answers. So it's considered a reward. My friends, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Woten's Day. Embrace your inner wisdom. Remember, you are perfect just the way you are. General, fulfilling us. Una. Hjälpas med Magnavine. Tufrug. Kaliut. Love and light, my friends.